I want to talk about this widespread idea or perception in educated, kind of especially left-wing cosmopolitan circles, that the traditional female gender roles, and especially those women who are actively championing traditional female gender roles, this idea that they're backwards or regressive or misogynistic. Basically, I think that it's the cosmopolitan sort of educated contempt for those traditional gender roles that I think is really most perverse. Look, I think that obviously women should be able to do whatever they want. They should be totally free to do whatever they want. And there are a fair number of women who can and would very much like to and are very much able to pursue career goals of all different kinds and all different kinds of personal achievements that historically they might not have been given access to or had access to. And I think that's a beautiful thing, to be, perfectly clear. Obviously, I hope that's obvious. My only point that I kind of want to add, which is like surprisingly rare or controversial in kind of educated progressive circles, is that I think it is basically a fact that there are large numbers of women who don't necessarily want to pursue, like fancy cosmopolitan careers in things like academia or politics or whatever it might be. I don't think that that's that controversial, just to say that there are large numbers of women who actually, who their personality types and their particular talents and interests and desires actually are much more consistent with traditional gender roles, and that should be perfectly fine. And I think we should even be able to see something that's quite cool about that, and to value that and respect that. And that's, I don't think that that's that's very controversial. It's not a very profound point that I'm making here. I don't think, but apparently it is, because there is a kind of widespread conception that this sort of attitude is inherently wrong or regressive or even misogynistic. I think that that's actually really perverse, because what it does is it makes I think it really does make a lot of young women feel bad if they don't have a drive to pursue status or career achievements. I don't think I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman if she doesn't want that. But I do think that the educated progressive women who like some of my friends sort of think that their drive for personal independence is absolutely necessary or natural. It's not necessarily, and that's actually a pretty perverse and nasty thing to try to impose on other people, because it makes other people really upset if that's not what they want. Not to mention, I would also add, to be perfectly honest about this, the idea of women pursuing sort of their own careers at a level of intensity that's equal to that of traditional kind of male status seeking is very, very new. We don't really. I would say that whether or not that makes a large number of women happy is an open empirical question. I'm not saying sort of the conservative line that that's antithetical to women's nature. I'm not saying that at all. I think there are certainly women for whom that is desirable and appropriate, and they're absolutely able and capable, and they do find their own self in that type of path, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But it's not clear what happens when that sort of cultural expectation extends to women at large, because it's so new. All I'm saying is that we don't quite know the degree to which that really is fulfilling for large numbers of women. And I think it stands to reason that there are at least some women in kind of contemporary culture who feel, sort of pushed into having that type of identity and kind of career track, who don't necessarily, in an organic, personal, deep way, feel pulled towards it, but they feel like they have to do that to be considered like a successful, independent, modern woman. And yeah, I don't have any more of a pointed or aggressive kind of, axe to grind or ultimate conclusion to make, other than to say that this is an open question, really, the degree to which women will find kind of true satisfaction in these different types of ways of living, simply because the very idea of women being able to have these sorts of lives en masse is so totally new, and we're still figuring out the degree to which that works for people, and the rates at which it works for people. Just, I mean, on their own kind of personal subjective level. We do know that it is quite hard for like high achieving, high status women in certain dimensions of life. Like it's hard for them to find mates, for instance, because we know that women tend to mate, across status hierarchies and above status hierarchies, upward in the status hierarchies, and men tend to mate across and downward in status hierarchies. That's a pretty general kind of fact historically. So this is something that becomes really difficult in a world where women are increasingly seeking kind of independent, high status positions and things of this nature, right? So how that plays out, I don't have strong, priors on that, and I'm certainly not bringing some sort of like, political axe here. But as a, progressive, totally kind of feminist dude, I think I can still be honest. We can all still be honest about the fact that we don't really know what is the ideal type of a lifestyle for different portions of the female population. And I think anyone who sort of acts as if they do know exactly what is the best route, or the most modern or progressive or enlightened path, is probably generalizing from their own experience to a degree that can't be justified.